Here's my annual review process that is a good way to close the current year and to set up the upcoming year with more intentionality. And my one liner this year is to close this year with beauty and start the next one with purpose. But you'll notice as I go through this that it's quite similar to other review cycles, just at a higher level. So it's similar to a monthly review or even a weekly review, but we're going to ask bigger questions and review a bigger time frame. At the core of it, there are 4 steps that I recommend blocking out at least one day, 2 to 3 hours for, ideally 2 days, so a weekend. And I'd say 2 90-minute sessions is more than enough time to do this, but you can also scale it down, as you'll see. It's a bit of a choose your own adventure thing. Step 1 is to recall the year. So you just bring it to mind. And there's so many different ways we can do this because so much of our year is going to be digitized. One of my favorite things is to use the Spotify Wrapped feature, which just tells me my favorite music of the year. And then on iPhone, there's a year in review that basically creates a slideshow with beautiful music of all the pictures you took that year. And this is a surprisingly emotional thing to watch. So those are 2 options I recommend, but there's all this other stuff, these different prompts. And the idea is you just pick 2 to 3 prompts in here that you feel like doing. Trust your intuition on it, because not everyone is going to be a Spotify user, for instance. Not everyone has a bunch of memes at their disposal. Now, the one that I really recommend for everybody to do, if you just needed one thing to do in the recall section, it's this step here, which if you click this link, it opens another doc. And this is basically every month of the year, just written out. And I want you to write 1 to 3 bullet points for each month. And the process here will be kind of all over the place. Like it's hard for most people to do it consecutively. You might remember a bit about May at first, and then you might need to look up your calendar to figure out August. But the goal here is to have at least 3 bullet points for notable things that happened each month. And you will know what notable means. Like in this case, this year that I did it, I had a breakup in January. And I was like, all right, I know that January was that breakup, and it became kind of like an emotional anchor point. I went to a spontaneous trip to Lisbon in September. So there's certain things like that just help lock in the year for you. Some of the stuff for some people is really easy. Like I had a client who just was able to do it all cold just from memory, but most of us need to refer to other things to fill this out. And take as much time as you'd like with this. Like I have a bunch of journal entries I like to reference, and I use this as an opportunity to read them, which is, it's like, it'll take like an hour to do that. If not more. So at minimum, try to get 3 bullet points to indicate your story for each month of the year. And that is probably the most powerful prompt in the recall section. Once you do that, you're going to have the year in mind. And this gives us a chance to reflect on it. And all these prompts here are more evaluative. They help pull out insights, and some of them make little judgment calls on how the year went. For instance, if you have goals, I recommend you review the goals. One of the ones I really like is really thinking about the year in terms of decisions. So when you have all the 12 months and your story written out in front of it, you'll be able to tell where you made key good decisions and bad decisions. You know, was it good to do that breakup? Was it good to go to Lisbon, etc.? Write down your wins. And this is a really key one. Like what happened this year that you definitely don't want to happen next year, or the positive version of this, what happened this year that you definitely want to happen next year. And then just to zip through this because we've got a minute left. Step 3 is a release step. This is, if you vibe with this kind of stuff, I recommend it. But if it doesn't resonate with you, then feel free to skip this one. But this is where you can do a little ceremony to let go of things. So write down what you want to let go on a piece of paper and light it on fire. And then I recommend you take a break before you come back to step 4 and resolve. And this is where we start to like hew into setting goals and intentions for the next year. And you'll see things like, what advice would you give yourself for the next year? What habits would you like to install? If you have an ecology of practice document, how would you update that? If you want to craft OKRs, these would be the inputs into that. And we can talk about how this branches off into some other more concrete goal setting processes. So that's the yearly review.